God gets very, very excited. Well, God is active anyway. God is omnipresent, omniactive. God is expressing itself, himself, herself, itself. God is expressing itself through us. God expresses itself through us and between ourselves as members of the offspring of the entirety, so that we would have a communication between members, even in separation. And down here, in this density of earth, in separation from God in our minds, I mean, many people in this earth do not realize that they are the offspring of God. They thought they're the offspring of their own parents. But, parents are also offsprings of God. But, what are we? What are we? God stepped itself down as us, and Jesus, being the offspring of God, manifest Son of God. So in other words, Jesus realized that he was the offspring of God. When he was here 2,000 years ago, virtually, it's like he realized that he's the offspring of God. And it says in the Bible, if you want to use the Bible as a text, it says that, he could only do what he saw the Father doing. The Father meaning those senior parts of yourself, those higher dimensional structures of consciousness that step themselves down as the manifestation of what you are, or what Jesus is. And so Jesus realized that he was the stepped down manifestation of God's self. So God being itself as Jesus, or even today, God being itself as you, God being itself as me, God being itself as everyone. So, it's amazing to think that here we are stepped down and we've been corrupted in our mind. We don't realize that we've been polluted in the programming of our mind. So originally we would have had a direct communication with God's source, and we would have known we're the direct step downs of God. But then the corruption came through manipulation of certain fallen factions. Certain factions of creation had fallen from the awareness of the presence of their relationship to God, and had created a mindset of energies that they shared with others to say that we're not from God. So we would be robbed of our, robbed of our knowledge of the truth, and so we believe the lie. So when you believe the lie becomes evident within your mind, but you believe it's the truth. When the lie comes to you, because you believe everything that's given to you is you, whether it comes from the internal source of God's source or external source of the thoughts of dead men. So when the parents produced us, they taught us what they knew, which was corruption. And we no longer listened to the inner voice of the living God, and we became very much programmed from an outer world of distortion, or a mind of alienation. We became the product of a mind of alienation and separation from the original creation, and we didn't realize that we are God stepped down into the flesh. We didn't realize that we are the Word that became flesh. And when you realize that you are the Word with God, because everyone's with God before the world was. Everyone is God stepped down here. But some of us don't know, because we've been programmed by the minds of dead men, and we've taken that on board and thought, well, that's what we are. And how can you blame anybody through believing that they are? Like people in this world believe they're humans. They believe that they are the offspring of their parents. Well, they are genetically, but the genetic structure has been manipulated and controlled by intruder race lines, or powers and principalities and rulers of the darkness. Minds of separation, alienation of thought has programmed our anatomy and biological structure so that we think and feel separate from God. But we're not. Nothing can separate you from the love of God. Nothing, not height nor depth nor sword nor famine nor feast, nothing can separate you from the love of God. And so when you see yourself as Christ, I'm not a Christian, but I know I'm Christ, if you know what I mean. Christians believe the doctrines of dead men. Not all of them. Some Christians know they are Christ, like I know I am Christ. God said, I am Christ. The Bible says, well, you're the offspring of the living God. Well, if you're the offspring of the living God, you're Christ. But if you are, in your mind, the offspring of dead men, in other words, call no man your father, call no man your father, for you have one Father who is in heaven. So, most Christians think that they're sinners, and sin causes death. And so if your body dies, it's through the destruction and deterioration, it's through the decrepit nature and the decay and depravity of the mind of separation that's caused your biological form to degrade and lose itself into dust again. You drive your body back to dust because you're being programmed by a decaying system. But if you let the regeneration of the Christ mind come into you, if you let the Christ come into you, that is your original creative energy, your original creative communication with the living God and the creator of all things, and you know that you are the offspring of that. What you're going to do for yourself is you're going to regenerate yourself. You're going to say, well, look, I'm going to mortify the deeds of the flesh. All of those contractual arrangements that I've made through space and time that are not true, but I thought they were true because I was told by dead men that they were true and I believe them, but I realise now that dead men have separated themselves from God. What's going to happen here?
Is not the intent of this room. The intent of this room is to deal with provable things.
Okay. I'll be quiet. You guys don't obviously understand.